Hello, hello. This is Dallas Cohen, the Rebound Coach, and you are watching or listening to today's episode of the Rebound Coach Live. I am Dallas Cohen, the Rebound Coach, and I am super happy that you're here today. So, we have some pretty serious stuff to unpack. So, I missed you all. Last week, I did a pre recording of the Rebound Coach Live. So it was the Rebound Coach pre recorded. um, I hope that you enjoyed it, but I missed you. I missed talking with you live. So if you are watching this recording, we are also simulcasting over on Clubhouse. So you can find us at the Clubhouse room is called Have You Been Robbed, which is the same title as today's show. And it's in the Club Sanctuary XP Master Key Mindset. So you can go check it out over on Clubhouse. And what we do is after our session here on Facebook, we head on over to Clubhouse for the after chat for just comments and discussions. So, okay, y'all. If it's your first time in a meeting with the Rebound Coach Live with me, I'm super glad you're here. And if you're not sure what a Rebound Coach is and why in the world we're spending time together today, I will give you the short version. I was married to a man for 10 years who wanted me dead, quite frankly, and almost got a chance to try it. God in his sovereignty and grace and goodness rescued me. And this is like the shortest version of the story I've ever given. But God rescued me, and myself and my children are alive and thriving. And really, I could imagine my life in a couple different ways. I could accept the identity that my former husband had in mind for me, which, if you know anything about the dynamics of emotional abuse, financial abuse, spiritual abuse, you understand that there's an entire identity attached to that whole dynamic of being in an abusive relationship, in this case, an abusive marriage. And I could allow that identity that I had agreed to, quite frankly, tell me who I was allowed to be. And unfortunately, in my circumstance, the man I was married to and his mistress were plotting my murder by the end of things, and had been plotting these things for months before I even found out about it. It was very scary. It's a very scary time. And I could allow that to literally tell me how many days I was allowed left on the planet. He was a very spiritual sounding man. I will use that. Very spiritual sounding man. So, yeah, I could have believed it. Once you hear something often enough, you tend to believe it. And so he would say all sorts of things that made me lead to believe that I wasn't supposed to be alive much longer. So I could allow that to tell me who I was, or I could choose life. And so I've written a book about that entire not just the marriage, not just the marriage, not just the abuse, not just God's rescue, but starting earlier, starting at the life circumstances that positioned me to be okay with that kind of lifestyle. He was a serial adulterer and a person that did not work. And so I found myself in a weird situation, and I had a partner that didn't seem to match me, right? But the truth is, this is a type. Who I was a type. Who he was a type. And those types get together quite often. What I found was that there were lots of people, lots of women, God-fearing, high-achieving, well-accomplished women that were in abusive marriages and abusive relationships, and not quite sure if God was okay with them being safe, if God was okay with them getting out, if getting out was even the right thing to do. And I wrote a book to help set the captives free. So, if anything, in my quick version of the story related to you, I have a book. It's called I Choose Life: Rewrite Your Love Story and Change Your Legacy. And it's not just, like I said, not just my story, although it is a lot of my story. And if you're into crime dramas, if you're into receipts, yeah, all the receipts are in here because I wanted to tell the whole truth. So it's not just my story. It is a path to understanding. It is a path to a way out. It's a path to freedom. So you can find that at thereboundcoach.com/book. That is the reboundcoach.com/book. You can get a copy from Amazon. You can get an ebook copy, or you can get one of these hard copies that I will personally sign for you and send to you. So, wanted to tell you about that. Thanks for listening to my story. Okay, so today, okay. Today we're talking about, have you been robbed? This came from a life situation, a couple of them over the past few days, actually. So, and in all honesty, sometimes life just doesn't feel fair, right? You work hard, you do what you think you're supposed to do, you're chasing the dream that you believe is for you, but it just doesn't get better. It just doesn't get easier, and you might work really, really hard and not see results. And that's frustrating, and it's demoralizing. And so a lot of us are faced with some choices, and we can often feel like there's something against us. Like, this is not just me. Like, I'm over here doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm over here fighting hard. I'm over here doing my best. And there's got to be some sort of opposition. And we might not always know what that opposition is, but we know that there's something going on. So I wanted to start to consider what might be something out there. I'm going to put out there in air quotes. What is out there that might be out to get us? You know, what is the opposite energy working against what we are working for? So, okay. For some of us in the professional world, there is diversity, equity, and inclusion training, right? DEI training. It is cultural sensitivity. There's lots of big fancy words for it, but essentially understanding the perspectives of people who come from different backgrounds than you do, right? So it's very good. Okay. I experienced one of these trainings in the last few days. And not my first rodeo, right? Been around this kind of topic for a while, know somewhat what to expect. Y'all, this thing laid on me like a ton of bricks. And not because I hadn't heard these pieces of data, most of them, before, but I think the laying on this level, that level of inequities, and that's what they are, inequities that people of color face, that women face, that certain, people groups have challenges, right? And they're facts, they're statistics, right? So statistics can be used a lot of different ways to tell many different stories, but they do tell a story, right? We can't explain away, right? We can try, but we can't really explain away facts. And so I was sitting with this duality and the way I was personally raised, even though we knew, and I'll tell you, between my parents, so I had one more conservative parent, I had one more liberal parent, which makes for lots of lively discussion at the dinner table. But the way I was raised to see that was it won't stop you, right? And there's an entire group of people where, because this is just, I believe, because they need to see life in a certain way, they explain away things that don't align, with the way they need to see life. And honestly, both sides do this, right? Both sides of any issue do this. I need to see the world this way. These particular set of information, these bits of information does not align with the way I need to see the world. And so I will go about justifying and explaining away, right? Both sides do this, which tells you that it's not an either or, which tell you that it's a both. So the way I was brought up is like, this is not a thing that threatens you. This is not a thing that threatens you. Go on, live your life. You have no boundaries, which is fantastic. Although the parent that was a little more leaning the other direction was more like whispering things, like, hey, this is why that didn't happen. This is why they didn't pick you. This is why you didn't win that race, or whatever it was. This was a racial slight. And I didn't believe my parent that said those things because the other voices were louder. And so that didn't register for me, not on a very real level until much later, where I'm, hindsight's 2020, and you look back as an adult and you say, oh, I can see where this was a racial issue that was going on, where this was a gender issue that was going on. And we can choose. This is the powerful piece, y'all. We can choose what we believe. We can choose no matter what. We can look at any situation and decide how we choose to interpret those facts, how we choose to interpret that circumstance. And so there's this duality between what is the evidence laid out. Okay, the evidence of, hey, there are inequities that we just can't argue with. They exist. They are historical. They are present day, right? The very exact same. They manifest a little different. They have some different names. They have some different avenues, but it is the same monster, right? It is what it is. And so I was in a group of professionals hearing all this information at the same time. One of the professionals, so they ask us kind of, all right, you've heard all this information. How do you feel? And there was a woman of Hispanic descent that spoke up and said, I'm just so frustrated. And I think she used the word resentful. I'm just so resentful that I was born into these circumstances. Life is hard enough. Why was I born into this? And she was referring to disadvantages that people of her race, of her ethnicity, of her gender face. And it was sad. Now, I think, everyone's entitled to how they respond. Everybody's entitled. So it's not a slight at this person. But it was sad to think that's the response, right? All these things happen. Poor me. I'm angry that I was born this color. I'm angry that I was born this gender, right? I'm angry that I was born into these disadvantages. Life's hard enough. And then I gotta be Hispanic too, right? Like that was the attitude. And for me, as I'm listening through, I feel like I had to duck. And I'll tell you this too. So they said ageism in the professional world, ageism starts at 40. Like that's the statistic, right? Y'all, I just turned 40 like 2 weekends ago or a weekend ago, something like that. So the thought comes like, oh man, you better be scared. Like people are gonna judge you for your age now. Okay, so I'm chuckling, but like that's a real thing. So the thought floats by. The scripture talks about take no thought by saying, right? So we have the opportunity. It talks about taking thoughts captive and just all sorts of renewing our minds and things we're supposed to do with our thoughts. So when that thought floated by, like, you should be afraid. They're going to judge you. You're going to have a disadvantage now that you're 40. Oh, I kind of watched it go by like, no, no, I don't choose that. I'm not taking that on. And there, I read something else, just rando on TikTok or people's comments on shorts, on reels, right? So somebody has said, like, oh, if you're over 40 and divorced, that means you're desperate for a man and like life's so hard for you and you're lonely. And I was like, oh my gosh. And you can know something in your head, but it still be like, oh no, oh no, oh no. Like, oh no, I'm 40 and I'm divorced. Does that mean I gotta be lonely now? Does it mean I need to be desperate now? Does it mean I need to try hard to get back into my youth? Whatever the heck that means, right? So it's like it's a real identity that is presented to us, like for real identity. And there are many identities presented to us, and we can choose what we take on, right? Like we can choose. And just because you said no in 1 minute doesn't mean it won't float by again. Hey, 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 you're over 40 and divorced. This is what your life is supposed to look like. This is what you're supposed to be wanting and not wanting. This is what you are supposed to spend your time doing and not doing. This is what life is supposed to mean and not mean, right? We can take on the single mother identity, whatever that means to you, right? The single mother identity, the divorced mother identity, the abused woman identity, all of that, or the identity of just being a prisoner to your circumstance, whatever that is. So I was speaking with a wife that is going through a divorce, and I was offering some resources and solutions, and they came up with every reason why they couldn't have the solutions, and it was very much what other people are doing, have done. That those were her limitations. You know, she was saying I don't work, so I can't pay for this, that, or the other, and this isn't part of my allowance, and the people at church don't want to face my reality. When honesty is, no one else has the responsibility of facing our reality except us. We have the responsibility of facing whatever it is that's in front of us, right? But no one else has to. No one else has to take us seriously if we don't, right? How do you know if you're taking yourself seriously? If you are taking steps for your own situation, whatever it is. And I'm being broad because this can be applied to anything. It can be applied to romantic relationships and abusive relationships, toxic relationships, your relationship with yourself. This can be applied to racial things. It can be applied to workplace issues. Whatever it is, no one's responsible for our reality but us. And it is our individual identity. Does it affect everyone around us? Absolutely. Does it affect the next generation? Absolutely. Is there value in moving the connective, as a community collaborative? Yes, all the things. Yes. Communities, societies, generations are made up of individuals. Families are made up of individuals. Relationships, you can't, aside from the relationship with yourself, relationships requires two humans, two beings. Sometimes, relationship with animals, whatever. But it requires more than one. So, yes, all of that is dynamic. It all also, down to the smallest common denominator, have individuals. And each of us as individuals have such power to change our experience. And when we change our experience, we help others change their experience. So I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So in the racial dynamic, on a hard the word I'm looking for, on a far end of things. There's people who identify now, I'm a Black woman, I'm a person of color, this is the experience I know. So this is the context in which I speak. I can't speak in other contexts. But on a far end of things, there's people who identify as oppressed. There's people who identify as exiled, our common oppressor. And there are women who speak the same way about men, our oppressors. And that's an identity. Whether you are angry about it, or you are sad about it, or you are scared about it, it is an identity we can choose. And despite the facts, we can unchoose also. That doesn't make the facts untrue. That doesn't make the wrong right. But neither does choosing a oppressed identity, right? Well, there's really stuff going on out there. Yep. And it's really bad. And it's not going away. I agree with you there too. But what's your choice? What is your choice in response? What is your choice? When we wear those facts, okay, true things, when we wear them as banners and they inform all of our decisions and they tell us what we can and cannot have, that is a choice. It is a choice. Does that mean life gets automatically easier? Not necessarily. Does that mean the obstacles disappear? Not necessarily. But if you tell yourself you can't, you can't. If you tell yourself you can, you can. You can. For every situation that has defeated someone else overcame. And we can look into all the details and try and compare. But the truth is, we are what we believe. And we have a choice about what we believe. The other end of being robbed, the other perspective about being robbed, is they owe me. They owe me. Okay. And I have the privilege of serving high achieving women of faith who live through betrayal, trauma, or abuse. And they're looking to reclaim territory in their relationship with themselves. And so there's a lot of you owe me in that. Folks who've endured childhood abuse, you owed me my innocence. You owed me protection. You owed me a childhood free from trauma. You owed me 3 squares and a roof over my head, right? You owed me these things and I was denied these things and I'm angry and I was robbed because you owed me, right? But even though those things are true, okay, those things are true, right? Parents do owe you protection and provision and safety, right? Those things are true. And you may not have received those things in childhood, okay? Choosing that as your banner. They owe me, I was robbed. Choosing that as a banner is counterproductive to positive goals. So the goals of, I want to make more money, or I want to be healthier in my heart. I want to walk in healing. I want to walk in freedom. I want healthy relationships. I want to attract healthy partners, right? The banner of you owe me and I'm mad about it. I was robbed. That's counterproductive to those goals. What's the way out of that, Dallas? The way out of that is forgiveness. Not because we can make the wrongs right. We don't make the wrongs right, not because they apologize, because many, many, many times you never get any kind of closure in that direction. But forgiveness is vital to release yourself from that. If that's what you want. Can't make you, don't even want to try. But it's something that you can have if you want it. if you want the freedom, you can have the freedom. So I would like you to think about, I'm going to play a video for you with an inspirational message. And I just want you to think about areas in your life, and it doesn't have to be societal, racial, ideological, real big, fancy. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about an abusive relationship. But think about an area in your life where there's an identity that you've taken on. You know, I'm a certain age now. This means my body's not going to work anymore. This means facing health challenges. This means this, that, and the third. Whatever. I'm a black man in America. This means I can't have this, and this means I'm disadvantaged at that. Whatever that is, think about what it is for you. What are some identities that you've chosen that don't serve you? That just flat out don't serve you? And what might you do to change things around? So listen to this. I will be right back. I know that if I asked you how you were today, you'd say you were fine. I also know what that fine means. It means you're alive, you're clicking through the to-do list every day, and haven't collapsed yet. I also know the collapse that's happening behind closed doors. You wonder why no one sees you cracking from the inside. Your 50% capacity is someone else's 150, so it always looks like you're doing just fine. You fooled everyone, even yourself, into thinking you don't need more than what you already have. But baby, you need so much more. I want you to know that I see you. I see your great worth, your beautiful strength, your resilience and tenacity. I reach past your intellect and speak to your spirit to say that you are so much more than the trials you've been through. You're not defined by who touched you, who left you, who ignored you, or who betrayed you. You're so much more than the men that laid you waste. I know you didn't feel like you had a choice in giving everyone what they wanted from you. But I am here to help you walk in your power unapologetically. I wrote this book to help you. I'm bearing my scars so you know you're not alone. I want you to know that there's hope and freedom for you. Not just survival or the everlasting wait for something good to finally happen. There's more to the love story than the preachers told you. Playing their game never worked anyway, now has it? Process your story while you read mine. This isn't meant to merely entertain you or to cause pity for me. I need you to know that walking through your own darkness is the way to the light. The only way out is through, and the only one to decide to take the road less traveled is you. No one can choose greatness over mediocrity but you. The status quo is to think that because what happened is over and you're functioning, that you've survived and nothing else needs to be done. But the greatness within you lays dormant, and those you're meant to feed your truth are starving. Work through this, my dear, work through this. We need you. On the other side of working through your trauma, so much love. Being able to receive the loving touch of your bridegroom, making up for all the touches that took from you. He sees you too. I've been sent to give you this message because he wants to breathe life into your very soul. In all the places that have gone uncared for, neglected, and rotting, if you allow his light on the pages to touch you there, you'll see that this book will breathe life into your relationship with yourself. That changes your love story and trickles through all areas of your life. Most importantly, this book will breathe life into your relationship with hope. I can't wait to introduce you to your true self. And if you're ready to, then let's go. All right. If you are ready to, you can go to thereboundcoach.com/book and pick up your copy of I Choose Life. And I have the honor of helping high achieving women of faith who've been through betrayal, trauma, or abuse reclaim territory in their relationship with themselves. And we're doing a group coaching experience called Reclaim coming up soon. So if you are interested in that, drop me a line. You can reach me on social media at the Rebound Coach. If you're watching this on Facebook, that's how. If you are on Instagram, it's the Rebound Coach. On YouTube, it is Dallas Cohen with a K. Or you can just go to thereboundcoach.com. That's easy enough. Thereboundcoach.com. You can find all of my information there. And I would be more than happy to give you more information about how to meet yourself again. There's some cool, exciting events coming up, which I am not yet at liberty to share with you, but please know that it's exciting and it's coming, and I can't wait to tell you about it. And I'm so thankful for you spending time with me. If you're watching this recording, please put in the chat what are some identities that you've taken on that don't serve you, okay? And what might you be able to do to change that and take on a new identity? It starts in what we say. It starts in what we allow ourselves to hear from ourselves, number one, and from others, number two. And that's not a quick process of reversal, of changing the program in our minds, not at all a quick fix, but it is the only one. It's the only one. No one can take from you the identity you've given yourself unless you choose to give it away. And so I just invite you, along with me, along with all of us, to continue to take on identities that serve us well, identities that glorify our creator, identities that align with not just what is factual, but what is true. What is true. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. Clubhouse, we're going to go chat it up in a minute. And for everyone who's joined me, thank you so much again. I appreciate you spending this moment of your time with me. And until next time, choose life.